Hello, my lovelies! Today we're shining the spotlight on a coral that doesn't always get the love it deserves, Pavona, sometimes called the cactus coral or a lettuce coral. It's hardy, unique, and surprisingly versatile. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced reefer looking for something different, Pavona might just be your next favorite addition. So let's dive in. We're going to cover care, placement, growth patterns, feeding, and a few pro tips to help you succeed with this underrated gem. Pavona is a small polyp stony coral, an SPS, but don't let that label intimidate you. This isn't your typical finicky SPS. Pavona species are found throughout the Indo-Pacific, often in high-energy reef zones. So what makes Pavona stand out is its appearance. Depending on the species, it can grow in a plating, encrusting, or even a finger-like form. The surface is usually covered in tiny starbursts like corallites, giving it a fuzzy look when the polyps are extended. It almost looks like an SPS trying to cosplay as a soft coral, and it pulls it off well. So let's talk species. There are a few types of Pavona commonly seen in the hobby. Pavona cactus is the classic cactus coral with thin plating ridges that grow outward like a fan. Pavona frondaria is similar to cactus, but sometimes with a more ruffled or leafy appearance. Pavona maldivius tends to encrust and form chunky mound-like structures. It's great for covering dead rock or adding structure to your aquascape. Each species has its own charm, and the growth pattern often depends on lighting and flow. So higher light and stronger flow encourages a more plating and vertical growth, while lower flow tends to encourage an encrusting behavior. Pavona is incredibly adaptable when it comes to lighting. It'll do fine in moderate to high par, think anywhere between 100 and 250. You'll get more vibrant coloration and interesting growth patterns if you give it a little bit more light, but it won't bleach out easily if your tank fluctuates. As far as placement, mid to upper reef zones are great. It handles a decent amount of flow too. In fact, it prefers a high random flow, keeping detritus off the surface, and encourages healthy polyp extension. But avoid placing it in spots where sand can blow onto it, especially if it's encrusting along the bottom. So let's talk about water quality. This is where Pavona really earns its reputation as a forgiving SPS. So here's what you're aiming for. Alkalinity between 8 and 9 DKH, calcium around 420 to 450 ppm, magnesium between 1300 and 1350 ppm, and a salinity about 1.025. Temperature 76 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and as always, stability is key. Pavona will not tolerate wild swings, but it also won't punish you for a slightly low reading like a lot of acros will. It's just a great coral for people getting into stony corals or looking to branch out from softies and LPS. So let's talk about feeding. Like many SPS, Pavona relies mostly on light for energy via its symbiotic algae, but it can also benefit from occasional feeding. You'll sometimes see feeding tentacles come out, especially at night. Target feeding with powdered coral foods like reefroids or broadcast feeding with live phytoplankton can boost growth and color, especially if your tank runs a little bit on the cleaner side. Their growth is slow and steady. While Pavona isn't the fastest grower, it is persistent. Once it takes hold, it'll slowly spread across rock, building ridges and form really cool plating structures. It's great for filling in those awkward spaces where nothing else seems to grow. Pavona is generally peaceful, but like many SPS, it will defend its space if pushed. It doesn't have long sweeper tentacles, but it does release chemicals, and it can overgrow neighbors. Give it a couple of inches of breathing room, and don't place it too close to delicate LPS species like chalices or acants. It's also a great candidate for mixed reefs, since it plays well with most softies and other SPS if given space. And remember, it can shade out corals below, so plan ahead when placing those big plating corals. So should you try Pavona? Absolutely! It's a wonderful beginner-friendly SPS, has a unique texture and shape, and adapts well to a variety of tank conditions. It's also an awesome coral for reefers looking to try encrusting or plating corals without driving straight into high-maintenance acros. Pro tips? Try placing a small frag on a vertical wall or a rock face. It'll plate out and create a dramatic shelf. Don't be afraid to trim it if it starts encroaching on neighbors. It responds really well to fragging. Another cool thing about Pavona is if you're battling algae, a healthy growing Pavona will eventually outcompete algae for space. All right, my lovelies, let's run through the episode recap. Choose higher flow zones and keep those surfaces clean and polyps extended. Moderate to high light encourages vibrant colors and faster plating. Frag early to control spread and encrust quickly. Target feed occasionally with powdered food to boost growth. Mount on vertical rock faces for dramatic plate formations. Space it out. Pavona can grow or shade nearby corals. Use it to cover dead rock or ugly rock with living texture. Stable alkalinity and calcium are more important than high levels, so don't panic over slight parameter fluctuations. It's one of the most forgiving SPS. All right, my lovelies, that is the episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you've got a Pavona in your tank, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment, share a photo, and tell us about your favorite species or color morphs. Until next time, happy reefing.